Today we have the First Lady of Christian Comedy on with us, Miss Chonda Pierce. How are you? I know.
You hear the thousands clapping in the background.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, for me, interviewing comedians, it's kind of tough sometimes because I don't do that thing where I just set them up to tell their jokes, you know? And, like, because I like to talk about real life stuff. And with you, it's funny because we had John Christ on once before, and all we did was talk about therapy and brokenness, but it was really good, you know?
Well, you know what? I know, John, and that was probably very, very good for you.
Yeah, it was, actually. And then, you know, there's, like, part of this, like, I came across a headline from you in the newspaper that reads, comic Chonda Pierce watched her husband drink himself to death.
Oh, that was a terrible thing to read.
I know. It's like, well, this ought to be fun. Let's start in here, you know? And because I know, like, you're, like, super funny, but, like, you have life.
I tell you what's interesting. Brad Schmidt wrote that article.
Yeah.
And that was probably written 9 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
And it's still the number one pulled up story or whatever at the Tennessean.
There's that old adage of tragedy plus time equals comedy.
Yes.
You know, and I do believe that's true. I mean, look at the jokes we make to process horrible events, you know, years later.
Right.
When you get that wrong, it's bad, you know.
It's called inappropriate.
Yeah, and
that's what you do need your therapist.
That's what I do, actually.
But you know, a lot of that is also, it's called deflecting.
Sure.
In the deepest tragic times, and you're making a joke, you're really deflecting that pain. It's like when I was younger and my second sister died. I had one older sister that died in a car wreck. My second sister died with leukemia a few months later. And I remember saying to my mother across the gaping hole, you know, we're dropping like flies.
Right.
And really loud. And, of course, some people snickered and some people didn't know what to do. And, you know, it's a freezing moment. But that was complete deflecting of the pain, you know, that you're going through. And that's the unhealthy side of sometimes we take our comedy. I think comics do it all the time. And, you know, you can go to a comedy club, which I haven't been in very many, but you could go to a comedy club and some of the most angry, the people that do that approach, you know, that's their approach. It's angry and it's loud and it's sarcastic and worse. I think they're very hurting people. Makes me want to throw my arms around them going, man, who beat you up?
Well,
you know?
think about it, though.
Yeah.
Most great comics are tortured in some way. You look at the Robin Williams of the world, and like, for me, I was always afraid to get happy because I'm like, that's where I'm serious. That's where, like, the tension comes from. And so when you go through something, you know, tragic, or you live in that pain, but you're trying to do Christian comedy, it's totally different. You can't always have a victim like you do in regular comedy. Yeah. You know?
You're the victim.
Yeah,
you know? And rightly so. When Robin died, we share the same manager. And so when Robin died, I did do a lot of interviews of stuff about depression because I'd written a book about it. And, you know, people wanted to know some things here and there. But in Robin's instance, you know, and I think many, many comics, especially in the mainstream world, there's a great addiction problem that happens. You get addicted to the euphoria of a room eating you up and out of the palm of your hand, and they're laughing, and you feel great about yourself. And you want to mimic that 24/7. So you forget, first thing you forget is, this is your job. It's not your life. It's just my job. So, and that's a smart thing to remember. And secondly, it's obvious who doesn't have their identity grounded in something bigger than themselves. So it's always, of course, it's the drugs and the alcohol and all that helps them mimic. Yeah, that's what helps them mimic that feeling in that euphoria. And they get addicted, and you want to feel that out. And who wouldn't? It happens in the Christian comedy.
It happens in Christian music, Christian comedy. There's nothing like that euphoria of having a crowd in your hand.
Right.
So in your DVD documentary, Laughing in the Dark, is that something where you tackle the heavy stuff, or is it just all funny and it's an ironic title?
You know, Wally, I got an award from the RIAI, the people that give you gold records, as the most awarded female comic in history.
Wow.
And they had a great little ceremony for me and all of that stuff, and bunch of platinums, bunch of golds, and they gave me this big old plaque. And I asked the guy then, I go, this just blows my mind, because you keep your head down, you do your work. And I said, because good Lord, there's Joan Rivers.
Right.
You know, people like that. There's Whoopi Goldberg and, you know, Ellen DeGeneres, Chelsea Handler, and they go, I know, we did the math twice because we've never heard of you.
Yeah, we couldn't believe it ourselves, you know.
So my hotshot
That's
Hollywood
amazing.
manager was setting out. He goes, I'm gonna hire a video team to just follow you on tour for a while, and let's start collecting some footage of these crowds.
Right.
And and I was selling a ton of tickets back then, and in that process, and in the middle of that, he was trying to make some kind of a Who I Am documentary for his Hollywood world. And in that midst of that, my husband fell into heavy addiction and died in the midst of that. And so we kind of started making that a part of it, of just the journey of a working mother or a comic, and then you go home to tragedy and you got to work on that, and you get your husband, pick him up from rehab, and all of that came into play in the video, in the making of this documentary. Right. And then we reconciled. We moved into a little house together, and it was really wonderful. We had this happily ever after ending, and he dropped dead. He had a stroke. It took him about 2 weeks to die. So we went ahead and talked about it, and we waited a few months, and then I went in and said, looked like things were getting better, but David died. It became very raw and very real, and I really debated whether to let him do it or not.
Yeah.
And we just decided there was so much substance there, like that article, that people need to know, especially in the Christian world, that addiction still happens.
Oh, for sure.
You still have people struggling on a pew. You still have people that are, iconic faith people, and yet they have some things at home that they're struggling with. And so we decided to go ahead and release it. It's been a really phenomenal thing. I thought my career would be over so many times. I'm really trying to ruin my career.
I've self-sabotaged a couple times.
I have been begging somebody to cancel me. Just cancel
Oh my
me.
gosh, I just said that the other day. I'm like, please, would someone cancel me? Like,
Yes.
it would be so nice
Wouldn't
to
it be
just
awesome?
walk away for a minute, and then.
And I'm shocked that I've been kicked off Facebook 4 or 5 times.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's fantastic.
I know. I feel so excited. I just wish, somebody would go after me. Go after me. I tell you what's funny about this thing. So many things came out of the woodwork because of this Laughing in the Dark. A lot of opportunity. It was another resurgence, I think, in women coming to see me, and I was very appreciative of that. But it also garnered the critics show up.
Sure.
And one day, this has been just a few years ago, this sounds terrible, but I was Googling my name to find a clip of me and Sandy Patty. Okay. So I knew it was on the internet somewhere, so I was trying to find it, And so there was other things that I saw, and it's like, these critics, and they have a podcast where they are critics for comics.
Oh, okay.
And they chose me, and I could take the criticism. I know I'm not the funniest, player in the box, but it was criticism about me personally.
Right.
And no wonder her kid never doesn't want to talk to her. No wonder her husband had the best plan to just check out.
Man.
Awful.
Man.
And I sat up in the bed. I called my manager, woke him up in L.A. and said, "This is awful. I just found this thing on the internet." And he goes, "Oh, man, we were hoping
I tried
you
to
would
hide that.
we were hoping you would never see that." He goes, "That was done like 5-6 years ago." He
but
said,
it lives.
And he said, "But Miss Pete, go down the bottom, click." And I go, and he's telling me, he said, "Look how many followers." And it was like 112.
Right, right.
And I'm like, I know, but they're so mean.
Well, it's critics' math, man. Like, 1,000 good comments plus 1 negative comment equals 1 negative comment.
Oh.
Like, we live in that world. My wife could not read anything about me. When I first got to Christian radio, I was the most hated man in this industry.
Really?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I wish I'd known you then.
I was so much more fun.
Because I would have liked you.
Yo, absolutely. Yeah, I don't like you now.
Not so much.
I've actually already scheduled Betty Rock to, when I die, do a roast at my funeral.
I've already started writing it out.
Yeah, she has. Yeah.
I'll help. Oh, thank you. I'll be glad to help.